All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. In this one, I wanted to react to the newest or latest segment that Mike Florio and Chris Simms did about Zach Wilson. I had a buddy send it over, and he said, hey, man, this is a must-watch. So, yeah, let's dive in and check it out.
Robert Saleh talking about the quarterback situation with the Jets. Look, he's in a tough spot. He's the guy that's out there front and center trying to sell these things.
That's right.
What he just said, though, about Zach Wilson, it tells me, Chris, remember 2 weeks ago, when they were keeping close to the vest the true status of Mike White, he wasn't going to get cleared to play in the Week 15 game. It just wasn't going to happen. And, coincidentally, Zach Wilson has moved up to number 2. That wasn't his call. He would have kept him on reset, timeout, double secret probation, and gone with Joe Flacco if it was up to him.
Right.
Somebody else made that decision to put Zach Wilson back into the number 2 spot, knowing that Mike White wasn't going to play. So lo and behold, Zach Wilson's back out on the field. That's not anything that Robert Saleh wanted to do. And I still don't, I choose not to believe the idea that they think he has a future. I think they're done with him, and they're trying to salvage some trade value.
So first off, I totally get where Mike is coming from here, that the Jets could potentially move on from Zach. But the part I disagree with is the reasoning behind Saleh's comments. I mean, I look at Robert Saleh as a player's coach. It seems like players, whether they're on the Jets or not, whether you want to talk about San Francisco, we got retired players like Richard Sherman talking about how good of a guy Saleh is. I think Saleh's just backing a player on his team. I think that's just the responsible thing to do as a football coach. I think, really, what is Robert Saleh going to say? Yeah, we are trying to ship him out of here. Yeah, we are trying to find a trade partner for him. Not at all, right? Not at all. Personally, although it might help his trade value in the offseason, I don't really see that Saleh going into that comment, answering it with the backbone of, hey, we have to maximize his overall trade value here. I think he was just backing up his guy.
Mike, I mean, first off, not shocker that Mike White's back in the fold starting the quarterback. That was a disaster last Thursday night. It was in all areas, Zach Wilson included. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he was not good, yes, but the team wasn't good either. And, yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's a marriage that's broken. And I would be shocked if Zach Wilson's back. In fact, if I'm Zach Wilson, I don't know if I'd really want to be back, honestly. Just the way the things have played out, the way the town has turned on him a little bit. I just don't see where, again, he'd have to come out of the gate next year, and they've got to win, and he's got to play unbelievable, or he's going to get booed off the field. And, and again, we're going to keep him and, bring another veteran in to where he's going to be the backup to that guy. But just the way they've managed the situation, the way they've managed him, the way they managed the end of the first half and put him in that situation to throw an interception, it's all been bad. It's all been bad, and I'm with you, Mike. I think it's over, and that Zach Wilson's got to find a new spot and kind of just rejuvenate his career from there.
So it's interesting that Simms thinks that Wilson is done in New York. Obviously, Chris is a huge fan of, Zach's game, what he can do, his potential, his ceiling, whether that's, back at BYU throughout the draft process. He actually rated Zach Wilson above Trevor Lawrence, and at the time, Trevor Lawrence was considered, as we all know, the generational quarterback prospect, one of the best quarterback prospects to ever come out of college. Simms had Wilson higher. Rookie season this year, Chris Simms has pretty much defended Zach the whole time, right? The whole time. And, I'm looking at Zach's young career so far. It's really crazy to think that, we have so many different people here, whether it's, Jay Glazer, whether it's, Chris Simms and Florio, whether it's, multiple beat reporters, everybody is saying that the Zach Wilson era is done. It's done. And, I'm trying to think of, in recent memory, quarterbacks that have just fallen apart, young rookie quarterbacks that just come in and completely fall apart, and the team just, the team and the quarterback just go their separate ways. I mean, obviously Josh Rosen comes to mind, but a little bit of a different situation with Cliff Kingsbury coming in, and he wanted to start fresh with, a quarterback that could run his system to the, fullest of its potential. Also wanted to get some mobility in there as well. So Kyler Murray made sense. Plus Kingsbury was coming over from college and remembered Murray's game like the back of his hands. So a little bit of a different situation, but I mean, outside of that, like Jimmy Clausen, not super similar because he was a second round pick. I mean, even Jamarcus Russell had 3 years with the Raiders. Granted, number 1 overall pick there, but at least Russell had the 3 seasons. If Zach Wilson gets cut or gets traded, this offseason, that's going to be Wilson came in with so much hype. Second overall pick. Joe Douglas passed on tons of different quarterback options. And if he's already on his way out, if these reports are true, and Wilson is officially on another team next year, it's just a crazy thought. Really, really crazy thought. But let's move on.
Shereen Williams and I talked about this for an extended period of time on Friday, the day after that debacle against the Jaguars. And, first point, Chris, you said the team didn't play well. And this is where analytics needs to take a back seat to reality of football. You put a guy out there that the team no longer responds to, and that's what you get. You get a team that is lifeless. You get a team that gets overpowered. You get a team that gets ultimately embarrassed, that can do nothing offensively because you can just sense it. You can feel it coming through your TV screen. This team does not respond to Zach Wilson.
Yeah.
However it happened, why it happened,
right,
when it happened, doesn't matter. It happened. And the organization has some responsibility, as you said, for mismanaging it. And I think it's the kind of thing that could bring down Joe Douglas. And this is, kind of a hallmark of what we see from Woody Johnson's Jets. The GM responsible for the most recent high-profile quarterback that doesn't work out doesn't stay very long. Mike Tannenbaum out after Mark Sanchez. John Idzik out after Geno Smith. Mike McCagnon out after Sam Darnold. Could be Zach Wilson out and Joe Douglas right with him, Chris.
Well, I hope not. This is a bad mark on the Joe Douglas era as it sits right now. All right, and again, we could, like you said, you can blame both sides. But I also think, and let's not forget, Mike, right? They far exceeded expectations for what we thought this year. And the rest of the team, there's nobody that plays the Jets that's not impressed with the talent on their roster.
Yeah, so I totally agree with Chris Simms here. I hope the Jets do not fire Joe Douglas this offseason. I don't think they will. I mean, whenever you're talking about firing a general manager, firing a head coach, you have to ask the question, okay, this is just step 1. Step 2 is finding a better candidate. Is a better candidate out there currently? And I would say right now, Joe Douglas's resume, although it has not been perfect, he's made some moves that I've disagreed with. He's made some moves that have not worked out. And, again, going back to their previous point, if Zach Wilson gets cut or traded this offseason, that's going to be a huge blemish on his resume, along with that first draft class that came in, the one that was headlined by Mekhi Becton. Those two things are definitely suspect. But at the end of the day, Chris Simms, I mean, he made a great point where the Jets are competitive. The Jets have 7 wins. They're not continuing to, finish as a bottom 3 team in football. It seems like the Jets are past that. Obviously, they have young talent on both sides of the football, and the defense has been, for the most part this season, dominant. Right. It's just been dominant. And it doesn't look like it's going to be slowing down anytime soon, barring crazy injury. And, I do get Florio's point when he's talking about, Idzik with Geno, Tannenbaum with Sanchez, and then most recently Mike McCagnon with Sam Darnold. But I'll say this, it's not just the one move, right? I mean, let's take Mike McCagnon, for example. Yeah, Sam Darnold didn't work out with the Jets, but there was also multiple bad contracts like the Le'Veon Bell contract, like Tremaine Johnson. There's multiple bad draft picks. Leonard Williams didn't really work out with the Jets. Darren Lee didn't work out with the Jets. It's not just, Darnold didn't work out, we're going to fire him. There's also a pretty long list of failed signings, failed draft picks that go along with the bad quarterback pick. And to me right now, Joe Douglas has not, he doesn't deserve to be fired by the Jets organization right now, but let's move on.
Some of the other examples that you just brought up, where, again, the last 2 guys, they messed up the quarterback and the team wasn't good. At least we got that here. And we'll see where this goes with this situation. But, again, I think there's a lot more positives here from the Jets and the direction they're headed in. It's the quarterback issue that's an issue. And, you can drive that right into the offense, too. That has to be evaluated. Yeah, they benched Zach Wilson. I get that. And yeah, they had more yards passing the ball, but they still had a problem finding the end zone. They couldn't do that in those games without him. And they went 1-2 without him too, and beat the Bears in the one win. So there's more than just the quarterback issue here too. There's a few things on the offensive side of the ball, and they've had some injuries to make things, of course, tougher on them as well.
Yeah, so for the most part, I agree with Chris once again here. I mean, the offensive line, we all know there's been, it's just been a cycle of new players pretty much throughout the course of the entire year with injuries at guard, at tackle. It's been rough. I mean, AVT switched his position midway through the season. Breece Hall obviously got hurt. Wide receivers have been banged up, whether you want to talk about Corey Davis and Denzel Mims. Like, there's been injuries all around. There's been bad play calls at times. There's been poor offensive line play. It's not 100% on Zach Wilson, and we do have to look at the entire offense, as a whole when we are breaking down the quarterback position. But, it's pretty crazy, and I would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comment section. I think there's a big section of this conversation here that I agree with from Chris Simms. Like, I see both guys' perspective, both guys' points, but I think at the end, if the Jets actually part ways with Wilson this offseason, that would just be absolutely mind-blowing. And I've said this in a couple different videos. If the Jets cut him, in my opinion, I think that would just... It just wouldn't be smart considering how much money the Jets already owe him, and he's already under contract for multiple years along with the fifth-year option. So if we're looking at Zach Wilson and we're saying, okay, he's underdeveloped, he's raw, he needs more time, whether that's on the bench, whether that's in practice, another offseason, another training camp, another preseason, or even an entire season on the bench, that can be achieved with him still on the roster. Now, I'll say this: if a team comes out of the blue, like the Saints or somebody like that, and they offer up this grand package, this insane trade package for Zach, it's like, okay, if Zach isn't really, if the organization doesn't really have a lot of confidence in Zach moving forward, and they're getting this phenomenal deal, this trade deal, from out of left field, then you might want to consider something, because Mike White, you can bring him back. You can, try to target a Derek Carr, try to target a Jimmy Garoppolo, or even Lamar Jackson if he, somehow hits the open market. But anyway, I'll leave it there. Let me know your thoughts down below. And as always, go Jets.